Ho ho buddies, welcome back. Welcome back to Borderline Games. How's it going? We're doing okay. I'm here. It's 6:30, exactly when these videos normally go out. We are playing Chaos Head. Last time on Chaos Head, we saw Takumi. You know what I forgot to get? Takumi. Takumi. His name's Takumi. I forgot to get my list of names out for every game that I do. I always forget. Characters. Takumi. Takumi is the name. Yeah, we woke. So we had the end of chapter 6 where Takumi was on the top of a tall building with Shogun. That's his name. And he then, next thing he knows is that he wakes up in hospital. He's with a nurse who says, "Hey, your sister's still alive." And now we've transitioned to this. So let's move on. After I'd found out that Nanami was still alive, the doctor came to me and asked me a few simple questions. They wanted to make sure whether or not I was well enough to leave. I answered the questions to the best of my ability and then opted to leave the hospital before my mum came back. After that disgraceful behaviour I'd showed off in front of the entire country, how was I supposed to face my family now? And if Nanami were to come back, I knew that I'd be so happy I'd immediately burst into tears all over again. And then, since she wouldn't know why I was crying, Nanami would then take it seriously and start yelling at me not to worry about her, probably while calling me an idiot too. When I thought about that, I nearly fainted from the sheer embarrassment, and so instead of letting that happen, I decided to employ a strategic retreat. A nurse brought in the most disgusting breakfast of all time, and after chipping away at it slightly, I snuck out of the hospital room. I made my way down to the first floor and then into the lobby. The clinic hadn't opened yet, so the lobby that was usually packed with old people was completely deserted. I confidently walked toward the front entrance. Luckily for me, the automatic door opened, giving me free rein to exit the building. The hospital staff might have gotten angry with me for leaving without asking them first, but I had to stay away from the hospital until everything calmed down. As for the medical fees, I left my mum a note telling her to go ahead and pay for it, so it should be fine. Despite the fact that I'd stayed overnight at the hospital, I wasn't exhibiting any actual symptoms, and my mental state was doing much better after I'd learned Nanami was still alive. Or was she alive? Making sure to keep an eye out for any ambushes by Shogun or Yua, I quickly made my way back to my base. As if nothing had happened. Phew! I'd made it back. My mental state had done a complete 180 since I'd been at my base. Of course, I was feeling a lot better now. If only I could have let my past self know that. What? Hang on, let me just process what this says. You let yourself get baited far too often, mate. I rate 8 out of 8. Mate? There's no reason for you to get so riled up, dude. Nanami's fine. Lol. Times 100. Or something along those lines. Thinking back on it, yesterday really had been a living hell. Everything had just gone to shit. I'd gotten a weird phone call in the morning. Then there'd been an earthquake. Then the data on my hard drive had disappeared. Then I'd had to witness a Yase try to off herself right in front of me. Then I'd gotten an email from Shogun. Then he'd sent me a severed hand. A severed goddamn hand. My mood plummeted in an instant. With a gulp, I turned my attention to the fridge. That's where the hand is. Before I'd left yesterday, I decided in my maniacal I decided in my maniacal state to just put the hand in the fridge for the time being. If I'd left it out somewhere, it could have started rotting. The smell of blood was also way too strong for me. There were all sorts of sci-fi anime and movies where as long as they remained frozen, people could stay in a state of suspended animation for hundreds of years. So that was pretty much what I was going for. I thought that if I could keep Nanami's arm fresh, she might have been able to get it surgically reconnected once she was back home safe. But if that wasn't Nanami's hand, then who the hell did it belong to? I feel like the fridge is going to be empty, right? And how would that explain the cell phone and the bangle? If I wasn't missing something, then it had to belong to Nanami. When I'd called her, it rung on the cell phone held in the hand. Or maybe it'd just been all part of Shogun's trap. Was it even possible to make such a perfect replica of Nanami's arm? It wasn't her arm, it was just her hand, right? I'll just look one more time just to make sure it's not going to be there. In truth, I really didn't want to. The entire hand thing grossed me out. Just thinking about it made me want to puke, even if it did belong to Nanami. It's good to see that just any hand, regardless of who it owned to, would make him puke, because, you know, of course it would. But that didn't mean I could just keep it in my fridge forever. Not even my supply of cola stayed that cold in it. I considered asking the police to come take it, but then I realised that they'd just suspect me of being the new-gen culprit. Even more than they already did, that is. It would practically be suicide to dial 110 and go, "Hello, yes, please come and take this person's severed hand off my hands. Thank you." What should I do? Should I just throw it away? But supposing it was Nanami's arm, it really didn't sound like a good idea to throw it away. Hell, were you even allowed to throw away human hands like that? Did they constitute as burnable or non-burnable trash? I tore up my hair. There was no point continuing to torture myself over it. I'd just go ahead and check one more time that the bangle was on her wrist, and that she was holding her cell phone. Was it Nanami's, or was it someone else's? That was the question I hoped to answer. I stood in front of the refrigerator and gripped the handle. I closed my eyes and then I took 1, then 2, then 3 deep breaths. Unsurprisingly, the temptation to just call Remy and ask her to do it for me crept up into my mind, but I quickly shook it away. No matter how good of an ally Remy was to me, there was no way she wouldn't freak out upon finding someone's hand in my fridge. And then if I managed to fuck up the explanation, she'd fall out of love with me, and then turn me into the police. I was going to have to do this on my own, somehow. Ugh, fuck. I clenched my teeth, took 2 more deep breaths, and then I yanked on the handle with all my might. Empty. What? It was empty. Entirely empty. I thought for sure that I put the hand in there yesterday. It had been wrapped in aluminium foil. Aluminum. It should have been on the top shelf. And yet there was no sign of it. All that was there was a few bottles of cola and a bunch of rotten clementines. Nothing else. It's gone. How? Just like that, it was completely gone. I crouched down and looked farther into the refrigerator, but of course it still wasn't there. There wasn't much in there to begin with, so it was already practically empty. There was no way I could have missed it. It turned into clementines. I put it in here yesterday, didn't I? Or maybe I'd just assumed that, and in reality I'd just left it somewhere. I closed the fridge door, then looked around my trash-filled room. The cardboard box is gone too. The large cardboard box with the hand inside of it. what had I done with it? I felt like I'd tossed it into the corner of my room or something, but either way, my memory of last night was very unclear. More things had happened yesterday than my poor brain could handle, and everything was made all the more brutal due to the utter chaos of it all. Calm down. Just calm down. Now, get your thoughts together. Think of why it might have disappeared. And then I passed out. I booted up the word processor on my PC and wrote down all the possibilities I could think of. Let's have a look at these. My mistake, I put it somewhere else in my room. Took it outside yesterday and threw it away somewhere. Shogun took it back. The police searched my house and confiscated it. The mass media broke in and stole it. The hand never existed in the first place. My base had been unlocked ever since yesterday, so if someone really wanted to, they could have come right in and taken it without much trouble. That would also be consistent with how Shogun had been able to put that hand in my room in the first place. Or maybe it was two. My memory of when I'd left my base to go to O-Front was unclear. The feeling that I'd had to save Nanami, seeing the severed hand, how terrified I was of Shogun, all of those emotions swirled around me, invading each and every corner of my mind. I couldn't calm down at all. Maybe I'd just left my base and tossed the hand in a dumpster somewhere without knowing it. Or maybe the whole hand thing in general had just been a delusion, and it didn't actually exist at all. But when I went to check my email, I found that the one I'd gotten from Shogun yesterday did in fact exist. And in that email, he clearly stated that the hand was a present. Not to mention that Shogun himself had talked about it yesterday. I just couldn't believe that it'd been just a delusion. Okay. Then what about the possibility that the police or the media took it? Those people looked at Otaku Freaks like we were no better than shit smeared on the bottom of their shoes. So it wouldn't surprise me. After everything that had happened yesterday, I was afraid to look at the internet. And yet in the end I couldn't help myself, so I clicked open my browser. First I checked the news section on Taboo, as well as the news sites I would typically go to. And sure enough, there were articles upon articles about the uproar yesterday at Scramble Crossing. Is the radio wave hijacking Esper just a boy who cried wolf? The ESP show held by the New Generation boy ended in the worst possible way. When faced with the disappointing end to the show, the nearly 5,000 fans that had crowded in front of Shibuya Station all began to boo loudly for over an hour, with some fans even fighting among themselves. The commotion began with a prank email sent by a boy, hereby referred to as N, living in Shibuya Ward. At first, news stations were skeptical of the email, which claimed that the boy was a clairvoyant Esper, who could see the culprit behind the New Generation madness. The popular name for a series of brutal incidents taking place in Shibuya. However, when American psychic detective Yuri Brightman, age 43, informed Today TV and Fujisun TV that he'd be willing to become the boy's legal guardian, both stations immediately took him at his word, or so the story goes. Yuri Brightman. The boy starring in the show did not turn out to be an Esper. He repeatedly riled up the audience by motioning like he was going to jump off the building. But his performance did not extend beyond that. Undeterred, the media companies dared to go up on the rooftop to report on the situation and attempted to get a comment about the New Gen incidents. But they were unsuccessful. The boy was found collapsed on the rooftop holding a Moe anime figure. Okay. I hadn't sent any emails to the media. I'd never even seen Yuri Brightman's show, let alone met him. So what the hell? Was this all just part of Shogun's plan like I'd originally thought? What was his ultimate goal here? He'd said something about it being a quest or something. Okay. Then what was the point of having the mass media televise me trying to get my hands on a sword? I didn't get it. What was Shogun trying to accomplish? He'd even released Nanami alive. I followed the links to various articles, but even after reading through all of them, not a single one of them mentioned Shogun. There'd been practically no gap at all between when I tackled Shogun and when the media had come bursting onto the rooftop. Even if Shogun had managed to escape during the window, the media would have seen him. And not only that, but Shogun was supposed to be stuck in a wheelchair. He was supposed to be paralysed, so there was absolutely no way he could have been able to escape the rooftop in such a limited time frame. I went on to check out channel. And to no one's surprise, an enormous shitstorm was going on. My real name was being plastered everywhere. Uh-oh. The uniform that Nishijou dumbass was rocking is from Sumai, isn't it? Are there any Sumai students in this thread right now? It was all a favouring off yourself a piece of human trash. Okay. This guy is a terminal. Okay. Alright. I guess we don't have to read every comment. Just like that, Taco freaks around the world all just shed a tear. TV's not for him. What else we got here? You big dum-dum. Time for me to kick your fat butt with my awakened form rocket body blow attack. I can't do this. Everyone was just saying whatever the hell they wanted to. They weren't even considering how I felt as they talked all this shit about me. Having at channel as your enemy was a scary thing. And it was all Shogun's fault. I was in this mess. It was his fault that I was in this mess. I was wondering if anyone had leaked any sensitive information onto at channel. The stuff that couldn't be aired on TV, but I couldn't find anything that fit that criteria. I hadn't been alone on that rooftop. There'd been one more person, and yet not a shred of information had come out about them. It was almost like the being known as Shogun had never been there in the first place. Maybe the Shogun that appeared on the rooftop was just an illusion. Maybe. Even if I know for a fact that he exists, there's a possibility that the Shogun I saw at O-Front was just a delusion I created. I think I'm losing my mind. There were so many things happening that shouldn't have been possible in real life. It was more like a video game at this point. Like there were two worlds, one where Nanami was alive and one where she was dead. And the two options were running parallel to one another, meaning I got to choose between them, just like a choice you'd find in an Eroge. The future was divided into countless different branches. And what made me different from normal people was that I could simulate what story events might occur use my delusions, and I was in the middle of simulating the route that would lead to the bad ending. Like one where Nanami died, or one where Ayase jumped to her death, or one where I fell off O-Front and died. In other words, for some reason, all these things that you'd normally find in the bad ending route would be coming after me, almost like they were hunting me down, due to a trap I myself had set. Maybe I just had the desire to leave behind my boring, uneventful life and go to a more exciting world, like one from a game, and because of that, I've been unconsciously showing myself what that would look like. That couldn't be it. I didn't have any desires, even remotely like that. Or at the very least, I would never want to make myself go through anything that would make me feel sad or scared, simulation or not. Besides, the power of imagination can only take you so far. What I'd been considering was nothing more than some childish bullshit delusion I'd come up with without thinking. Jesus. I sighed, leaning back in my chair and looked up at the ceiling with a blank stare on my face. Reality isn't set in stone. Anything and everything just felt fake. The world I was living in was completely hollow. New Gen 6th case confirmed. Woman in her 20s found dead in Shibuya River of Shibuya Ward on October the 28th. The woman died of asphyxiation after consuming the flesh of her own right hand and choking on a bone that lodged itself in her throat. What? At around 8 PM this evening, the woman of her body was found dead in the Shibuya River of Shibuya Ward. The victim, 27-year-old Takachi Ayami of Edogawa Ward, is believed to have died of choking-induced asphyxiation. According to the investigation, the flesh of the victim's right hand had been scraped off, exposing the bone, and what appeared to be a human flesh was found in the victim's stomach. The victim is believed to have chewed apart and eaten her own right hand. As well as this, her ankles were bound together by string. The police are currently investigating this incident as both a suicide and a homicide. What the fuck? Finger food. Ever since the seismic intensity 5 earthquake, the city of Shibuya had been overwrought with an air of pure bloodlust. The sense of order in the city had been visibly deteriorating. This decrease in security was not just regarding fights among young people, but the increasing number of store windows being broken as well as large surge in theft. The media continue to use the term new generation in order to establish a feeling of crisis and entrapment, and in response to such fear-mongering, a handful of stores had abruptly ceased operations. In addition, a group calling themselves the Anti-New Gen had suddenly transformed into a riotous mob during one of their weekly demonstrations, charging the Shibuya police station and resulting in the arrest of over 100 people. Riotous. Much like the Esper Boy riot, thousands upon thousands of curious onlookers gathered in the area in order to enjoy yet another shitstorm. There was a striking difference in excitement between those who were visiting the city and those who lived in it. The former expected Shibuya to be more eventful than ever. The former expected Shibuya to be more brutally eventful than ever, while the latter condemned the lawlessness of their home and insisted on strengthening police authority. Then, as if to mock all the uproar, the 6th New Gen incident occurred, and of course, the perpetrator had yet to be apprehended. It had been a week since the earthquake, and in that period of time, I'd been suspended from school. Even if I hadn't been suspended, I wouldn't have been in the proper mental state to go to school anyway. The day immediately following the earthquake, another New Gen incident had occurred. That incident, just like the murder of Dr. Takashina, was obviously supposed to send a message to me. I'm feeling it's less and less obvious, Takumi. It was a woman who'd bitten off her own right hand. There was no doubt in my mind that it was supposed to allude to Nanami's severed right hand. Nanami was clear bait from Shogun to lure me out. But even though I knew that, the thought that Nanami could have been the one killed sent shivers down my spine. And since I'd become famous in Shibuya, in the worst sense of the word, I was now more terrified of going out than ever. If I had a hole to crawl into, I would have done it with no hesitation. Even going to the convenience store to buy food for myself killed me. And there'd been an entire day, or entire days, I went without eating. It was impossible for me to walk outside with my head not glued to the ground. It always felt like someone was laughing at me. The gazes of other people terrified me. I didn't want to talk to anyone, to see anyone. People from the mass media had been trying to bother me constantly, but I ignored every single one of them. I hadn't called my parents, nor had I talked to Nanami. I hadn't been playing ESO either. If it somehow got out that I was Neidhart, I would be absolutely fucked. It had been 1 week now. Was that enough time for everything to cool down? People always say, oh, they'll forget about it in a month, but hopefully it didn't actually take that long. And I mean, trends did go by extremely quickly these days. The slang people used would become obsolete by the next year. Even net slang and memes that people use online died out in just a couple of months. Television sought out heroes, idols, villains, or whatever else that would excite the public, and as soon as it found them, it consumed them for all they've worth, then promptly discarded them. Even the new gen cases, which had been going on for 6 cases now, were quietening down. No one even talked about the first case on @channel anymore. Everything faded from people's memories in the blink of an eye. Which was why I was hoping that in the past week, everything that had happened to me had already faded from the public consciousness, just like some passing trend. Even if it was just wishful thinking, I couldn't help but hope that it might be true. My head and stomach started to pang. I sat down on my usual bench and calmed myself down. Saratan would know what to say right now.
If it's causing you so much pain, you should just stop going to school, don't you think?
I was at the point where I was starting to consider it. I mean, due to the worsening security, more and more people have been opting out of school in Shibuya Ward. So it wouldn't just be me. And I'd always thought that it made no difference whether or not I graduated, so much so that I'd be willing to drop out of school right now. But despite that, I still planned to continue going, even if it meant risking running into Yua. I gulped down a cola that I'd bought at a vending machine on the way to the park, then stood up from the bench. I should just stop kidding myself. I didn't want to go to school, but I didn't want to quit it either. Because if I quit school, I wouldn't be able to see Rimi anymore. We were classmates, so as long as I kept going to school, I'd be able to see her without going out of my way to do so. But if I lost that, I could always just call her or go meet with her directly, but like I said, that would mean I'd have to go out of my way to contact her. And I knew for a fact I couldn't do that. In fact, I already knew that I hadn't been able to bring myself to see her for a while now.
I'll stay by your side.
That was what Remy had promised me, and I hadn't heard from her over the years. No. For over 10 days now. Not a single word. I'll just add whatever words I want in. You guys are alright with that, aren't you? The thought that Remy, my one and only ally, might have fallen out of love with me after seeing my disgusting behaviour on TV, it destroyed me. I was terrified. I felt like crying. And I'd never felt so alone. No one, not even Nanami, had come to see me. I was being subjected to thread after thread of endless slander on the internet. I was scared shitless by even the idea of Shogun and Yua. And while I'd said before that I didn't want to see anyone, the loneliness was eating away at me. I wanted Rimi to come and see me. I wanted her to hug me gently and tell me it would be all okay. Must have been so hard, but I'm here now, she'd say, in her beautiful voice. In the end, Remy had spoiled me rotten. Well, she wasn't in the wrong for doing so. Remy had taught me the warmth that 3D could have. I know, now that I knew what that warmth felt like, I never stopped wishing for it ever since. I couldn't get that kind of peace from 2D or delusions anymore. I couldn't survive on just my delusions. I wanted to see her. When I passed through the school gate, I hadn't noticed any particular change in the atmosphere. That is to say, no one had noticed me. I entered the building and started up the stairs. A girl I didn't recognise went to pass me, but just before she did, she let out an audible "ah" and looked at me with pity in her eyes. I walked into the hallway where my classroom was located. Several windows were broken and I could feel people's gazes mercilessly burning through me as they whispered. At that moment I was hit with a very bad feeling. My wishful thinking was already on the verge of shattering to pieces. But even so, I opened the door to my classroom, fueled by one more desire: to see Rimi. The silence lasted for about 10 seconds. Everyone was frozen. They all stared at me. I kept my head down as I walked through the quieted classroom and took my seat. As if on cue, a DQN sitting in the last row, whose name I didn't know, spoke up.
Yo, Nishimi, Nishijo. Care to show us your psychic powers?
And with those two sentences, time started moving again in the classroom. Why are you even bothering? He's just an attention whore.
You think? Didn't Yuri said he was legit?
Right, how could I forget? The Yuri guy. I've seen him on TV before. Real awesome show and all, but his psychic powers are total bullshit.
Yeah, so Nishijo would have to be a fake too, right?
Yeah, totally. All he knows is how to bang his big blow-up doll and his small plastic one. Okay. Ha ha ha. Bit harsh. Come on, lay off. Nishijo is just... oh my god. That's all, so be nice. I heard that he can fly. And that he's got this other power. What's it called? Clairvoyance or something. Oh god, what if he uses that on me? He'd see right through my clothes. Nishijo, you're such a perv. Oh fuck, he's looking over here. Quick, look away before he turns you to stone. Nah, don't worry about it, he's just some otaku freak. He can't hurt us. Yeah. This is hell. This was exactly what I'd feared the most. The DQNs had their eyes on me now. It had been a week, but no one had forgotten about the uproar I'd caused. I was now the laughingstock of Japan. The boy who, after trying to show off his special powers to the masses, went home and slept with a figure. There was no point in protesting. Saying that I'd never call myself an Esper. Saying that I'd never called myself an Esper. Oh, saying that I'd never called myself an Esper. The truth was meaningless now. Right now, the truth was just the one story that everyone in Japan was familiar with. The story that tens of millions of people recognized to be the truth. Quote unquote. There was no fixing that. No one could. Not me, not anyone on TV, not even Shogun. I was a self-proclaimed Esper, who no one would ever associate with. I was an absolutely revolting male otaku, the biggest freak everyone had ever seen. Not a single person would ever look at me with anything other than disgust. I'd always hated TV shows that made fun of otakus, and now I just added fuel to the fire. I didn't have any psychic abilities. I couldn't fly. I didn't have clairvoyance. I didn't have telekinesis. I couldn't obtain a D-sword. I'd even given up on trying to save my sister just so I could save myself, like the complete piece of shit I was. I was just an otaku that had nothing to show for, other than his knowledge of anime, video games, and whatever other media. So it only made sense that I couldn't do it. I fought off my imminent mental breakdown and searched for my saviour, Rimi. And when I did, my eyes met Masumi-kun's. Only for him. To immediately look away. I guess that was only fair. If you hung out with me, the entire class would shun you too. That was why he'd looked away. It was only natural. Oh no, his best friend? Besides, he and I always lived in two different worlds. I was an otaku and he was a total alpha male. It was a marvel that we'd ever been friends at all. Feeling like I was on the verge of tears, I went back to scanning the room. I searched for anything I could latch onto. I desperately cried out in my mind for Rimi. But she wasn't there. Rimi was nowhere to be found. Why? Was she just absent? Of all times for her to be gone, why now? I didn't have any way to get a hold of her. What if she never came to school again? If that happened, I'd likely never see her again for the rest of my life. That was the feeling I got. It was like that when she first appeared too. Back on the first day I saw her at school, Remy was suddenly in my class just like that. And now she disappeared just as quickly. Could she have gotten caught up in the earthquake? Could she be dead? I tried my best to shake off those negative thoughts, but it was hopeless. I was just getting more and more depressed, and now my mind was being overwhelmed by an incredibly dark and foreboding delusion. I was starting to wonder if the girl known as Shakihata Rimi had ever existed at all. Maybe she was just another personality I'd created inside my delusions, like Saratan. When I thought of it like that, it all started to make sense. Whenever I needed help, Rimi would always come to my rescue, like a knight in shining armor. Whenever everyone else would treat an otaku free like me like trash, Rimi would treat me with kindness. Had I seriously believed that there was a 3D girl that was just so damn perfect for me? Someone that was pretty much my dream girl? Oh. Red or green, red or green, red or green. Green. I had no reason to come to school anymore. Oops. What did I just miss? My one and only reason was gone. I really was completely alone. Just like I'd always been. I'd always been completely and utterly alone. I started to cry inside my head. I took everything I had just to keep myself from crying in real life. That was all I could do to try and at least maintain some semblance of pride. But that was all it was, a semblance. I tried as hard as I could just to keep my head down, grit my teeth and stay in my seat. Even though I didn't want to hear them, I could hear all my classmates talking. I wanted to run away, but I was too afraid that would only make things worse. Every last one of you should just die. I had nothing left to lose, so why not just die doing what I loved to the very end? Here we go. For example, wrapping my arms around one of the girls in my class and whispering dirty things ripped straight from an erosion in their ear. If I could actually do that, I'd go straight to the class in the morning and get in some public humiliation roleplay. He's gross. While only half paying attention, I looked around the classroom. Who'd be a good target? A cute girl that wouldn't put up much of a fight sounded ideal. Why do I click green? The DQN bitches were already out of the question. Even though they were all mere high school students, they all wore way too much makeup, rendering them not even remotely attractive. Oh, I know. Maybe the transfer student would be a good choice. Don't do it, Takumi. From a glance, she looked to be quite docile, and her entire body gave off the aura of a lolly who was typically the #1 target of bullying. Additionally, she also had the clumsy girl attribute, which was Super Mo. Really, she was already virtually a 2D character. Yes, perhaps she really would be a good choice. Oh no. I stood up in a relaxed manner. The aura surrounding me had changed. Even the people who'd been ridiculing me and provoking me were startled by my sudden movement. In the end, you guys are all talk. But I'm different. I'm the type of man who acts. And now it's time to prove it to you. Without saying a single word, I made my way over to the transfer student's desk. She was sitting hunched over in her seat face down. Huh? Noticing me approach, she looked up at me quizzically. For some reason, she'd already looked like she was about to cry. I then quickly grabbed both of her slender arms. I then began to pull her toward me. She tried to resist me with her feeble strength. She alternated between looking at me and looking at her surroundings. Her confusion written all over her face. It was clear she had no idea what to do. Oh god, this is horrible. I brought her in close and wrapped my arms around her quite forcefully. Oh my god, what the fuck? Her body really was incredibly frail, to the point where I thought I might break her if I was too rough with her. She trembled like a chihuahua in my arms. But man, did she smell good. I nuzzled again against her head, the top of which barely reached the bottom of my chin. I buried my nose in her soft hair and sniffed it. Okay, I'm uncomfortable. Make this end, please. The transfer student was so terrified that she couldn't speak. Then again, I hadn't seen her talk even once before this. Anyway. She was struggling and wiggling around in order to try and escape from my grip, but the strength she put forth was pitiful. I didn't exercise normally at all, but even with zero muscle mass, I'd easily been able to subdue her. The DQNs around me, likely taken aback by my strange behaviour, were all frozen in place. As the transfer student shook her head back and forth, I ran my tongue along her earlobe. This is fucking horrible. Her delicate body squirmed in my arms. Ah, what a delicious reaction. More. I couldn't get enough of it. I was getting more and more aroused as I decided not to think about the consequences, instead just choosing to follow through with my inner desires. First, the dirty talk. I was going to make this timid transfer student say something indecent. Her sexual desire was something else. I want you to say pussycat. The transfer student's face reddened. She shook her head even more desperately than before, tears welling up in her eyes. Say cockroach. Her reluctance only served to feed my sadistic desire even more. Say cock-a-doodle-doo. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Huh? Oh, thank God that's over. Well, let's forget about the last one. As I slouched farther and farther into my seat, I tried to make the transfer student perform a number of humiliating acts in my head. I wasn't going to hold back anymore. If my life was going to end anyway, I might as well have a little bit more fun before it did. The more I thought about it, the more I felt the urge to do it. Maybe the moment I did something reckless like that, the simulation of the bad end would end and the world would then reset. I'd then return to the original world where I could make different choices. Rimi would be there. Masumi-kun would be talking to me in his normal, overly friendly manner. Everyone would have completely forgotten about my shameful behaviour. No one would be making fun of me. Maybe I should try it. The centre of my head felt fuzzy. I felt kind of feverish. Was this that fever you got before obtaining some new knowledge or power, or was it some delusional fever? I didn't have a specific name for it if it was. Well, not like it mattered. Maybe I should try it. Even if I couldn't return to this original world, people would think I was crazy. People would just think I was crazy. No, they probably would already thought that. So it didn't really matter. It wasn't like I had anything to lose. A week ago, back when the nurse had told me that Nanami was still alive, I'd thought that as long as Nanami was alive, nothing else mattered. Even my life didn't matter. I didn't care if I was treated like some freak and sent to the nearest hospital. It'd be nice if I ended up with the same one as Ayase. Where had Ayase been admitted to, I wondered? Was it that penitentiary-like hospital that she'd used to be in? Even that would be fine. Hell, That'd be slightly better than being in this school without Remy. The urges within me bubbled like magma. I could no longer control them. I slowly stood up. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Everyone in the class stared at me and their expressions stiffened. Don't look. There was no reason to look at a worthless piece of shit like me. No, you have... Suddenly. All sorts of worth. I heard... a girl's voice. Is it Remy? A whole bunch of it. Not only that, but it sounded like... Oh, is it Seratan? But it sounded straight out of an anime. Who's the one who saved the girl? I'll save the voice until I know who it is. Who's the one who saved the girl who tried to kill herself by jumping off the rooftop? You, Nishijo-kun. Which is why you have tons and tons of worth, Nishijo-kun. Who the hell was talking to me? I looked around the room one more time. Everyone was all frozen in place due to my odd behaviour, but they all kept their mouths shut. I couldn't find a single human being who was talking. But that voice... It was such a strange sensation, it felt like it was coming from directly inside my head. Was it an illusion, or had I just crafted yet another delusional girl inside my head? It's not an illusion at all, Z's. Not a delusion either. What was that just now? They were responding to my thoughts. Was someone reading my mind? No, it had to be just a delusion. Kozupi is right here. What the hell is a Kozupi? And where is here? Who are you? When I shouted, my classmates moved farther away from me, almost like they were trying to run away in fear. You said you were worthless, Nishijo-kun, but Kozupi knows that's wrong. Super duper wrong. Who is this? The voice didn't answer my question. All the voice did was continue to talk to me in a really strange way. Instead, all of the people in the classroom, the ones that talk all bad about Nishijo-kun, they're the ones that are worthless. A shudder ran through me. Goosebumps sprang up on my skin. In an extremely cheerful tone, the voice then said, Kozupi thinksies. Killing them would be a good thing. Uh-oh. Please. No more. I cowered in my seat, cradling my head in my hands. The world hadn't reset. I hadn't returned to the parallel world where Remy was. Rather, it was like I'd gone completely and utterly crazy. My god. And I guess we're going to find out, is Takumi actually crazy? Who's talking? Who is Kozupi? Kozupi? We'll find out that and more next time on Borderline Games. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head. And I will see you next time. Have a great evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Bye.